Welcome back in another Bitfarms exclusive video on the Cryptoviser podcast. Today we're going to be talking about how the US Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, may have just blessed Bitfarms with new rulemaking that will unleash the energy pipeline and significantly benefit Bitfarms as a company. Now, we have been talking about Bitfarms pretty much very heavily at the end of 2025, but we've been talking about Bitfarms for many years because we saw what Bitfarms was doing in terms of their pivot from Bitcoin mining to high performance compute and AI, which effectively was a good move. And you can see many of the Bitcoin mining companies do this. And the reason that this is so critical for these companies that were Bitcoin miners is that if they didn't pivot during the rotation phase and continuance of a bear market, which we will have in crypto and we will have in Bitcoin, this is a net negative for the Bitcoin mining companies. We saw this in 2021 into 2022 when many of these Bitcoin mining companies either went bankrupt, had to restructure their debt, had to raise more funds because they were not prepared for the bear market. And I think a lot of them did learn from that. And one of those was Bitfarms. And we've seen Bitfarms really focusing their efforts and energy, pun intended, into the United States, right? They offloaded some of their South American Bitcoin mining facilities and then purchased US-based facilities. Now, it is still a Canadian company when I'm recording this video, but we heard from the CEO that they are planning and will be moving their headquarters fully into the United States in 2026. But now we have, and by the way, just for those who are new to this channel, we called the bottom of the market in August of 2025. You can see this on my YouTube community page right here. Double bottom was confirmed. This is the cleanest chart I've ever seen. And Bitfarms has been moving up ever since. And this is the Cryptoviser podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications. That way you never miss a new video, because if you have not been subscribed, you have missed critical info and critical posts like this, where we call the Bitfarms double bottom, the W pattern in the market. And I do have a whole video about that around that time. You can go to my community post and just type in Bitfarms, the Cryptoviser on YouTube, and you should be able to find it. But in today's video, we're really going to be exploring how Bitfarms just got a blessing from the U.S. Department of Energy, because the Secretary Wright, this is the U.S. Secretary of Energy, has directed the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to initiate rulemaking procedures with a proposed rule to rapidly accelerate the interconnection of large energy loads, including data centers, positioning the U.S. to lead in AI innovation and in the revitalization of domestic manufacturing. And one of the things that we've been exploring and covering with Bitfarms, and I just posted a video recently called, I think it was, let's go to it, hold your ears for a second, there you go. It was called the $1 billion secret plan, Bitfarms secret roadmap, very bullish. I would definitely recommend watching that video, because in that video, Ben Gagnon, who is the CEO of Bitfarms, lays out basically what their plan is for AI domination, and the fact that they've raised $1 billion that they're sitting on to further expand, and the fact that they're also first in line for these energy approvals or energy connection pipelines, which is very different than like Iris Energy and Cypher Mining. That they do have good operations, but Ben and Bitfarms are going after owning the energy, because at the end of the day, the energy is what these AI companies need to power the data centers. And so if they own the energy, and they can charge whatever they want for this energy and the connectivity to this energy, or the exclusivity to this energy. Now, we're going to be exploring all of this in today's video, and we're going to be using some posts from some of the Bitfarm maximalists like Kamasutra here on X. And let's get right into it. Don't forget to hit subscribe. That way you never miss any of the new videos. And I would definitely recommend going and watching that Bitfarm secret roadmap, where you're going to hear from the CEO directly on what they're doing. There are very few times in essentially in crypto or in investing where you have the opportunity to invest at literal generational bottoms of the market, at the early grounds, right? Everybody is chasing Bitcoin price performance from previous cycles. But what we have covered on this channel is that every cycle we've seen diminishing returns, and this happens in almost every asset class and every category of technology. There are diminishing returns. Yes, market caps are at all-time highs, but the amount that you can go higher from there when you're investing, it takes much, much longer than early side investors. And we're the very early entry ground level state of artificial intelligence development and really the data center expansion. And a lot of these companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and all of these companies, they basically have blank checks. And a lot of these companies, they need to utilize the blank check for the infrastructure for the software that they're creating. Because the software, which is the AI itself, is great and all, but they need the infrastructure, they need the energy, they need the data centers, they need the server racks, they need the GPUs, they need all of that. And so investing in the picks and shovels, which is what Bitfarms, Cypher Mining, Iris Energy, it really is the picks and shovels. It's like investing in Coinbase versus investing in Bitcoin at the very, very early stage. And these are very few opportunities to do this, right? A lot of people missed Bitcoin's early stages or missed the altcoins early stages or missed NFTs or didn't cash out. This is an opportunity where I still think that we're very, very early on in this space. I mean, these AI companies literally have blank checks to expand their AI operations. And companies like Bitfarms, when I'm recording this video, the market cap of this company is still under $5 billion. They have $1 billion in cash to expand and accelerate. We have the US Department of Energy basically creating rules that we're about to go through exactly what these rules are and what this expansion will look like. For anybody to think that Bitfarms and all of these other companies similar to Bitfarms that have the energy, that have the data center capacity, that have the connectivity to the fiber optic, intercontinental, wires. I don't know how any of these companies, and I've said this over and over, are still under $10 billion. They should be at least double digits, if not higher. And so let's kind of break it all down. So Kama Sutra on X said the Department of Energy's new FERC directive, which we'll get into in a little bit, for large flexible energy loads in the PJM, which is, Pennsylvania region, is indeed a game changer for Bitfarms, a sentiment that he agrees with. Matt Siegel, who's the director of digital asset research over at Van Eck, one of the large financial institutions. They are currently have 3 sites in the PJM, all in Pennsylvania: Sharon, Panther Creek, and Scrubgrass. These are the 3 Bitfarm facilities that they are showing have immediate capacity. They have the land, they have robust fiber network, right? Connectivity to the internet, proximity to major metros, high demand area for compute, and proceeding with HPC and AI development. How much sooner can this directive pull forward is the increased capacity at these sites for Bitfarms. He says, I don't think anyone knows for sure at this point, but it does look promising that they will be getting the requested megawatt energy load and at the earlier date. Do keep in mind that from the X Spaces or Twitter Spaces with CEO Ben Gagnon, that's that video that I was just showing you on my channel, their $1 billion cash pile, their secret plan, that he did state Bitfarms is pretty early in the PJM queue for these requests. So exactly what is he talking about? Well, the U.S. Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, directed at the end of October 2025, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, to initiate rulemaking procedures with a proposed rule to rapidly accelerate the interconnection of large energy loads, including data centers, positioning the U.S. to lead in AI innovation and in the revitalization of domestic manufacturing. It continues and says, Secretary Wright's proposed rules allow customers to file joint, co-located energy load, and generation interconnection requests. It will also significantly reduce study times and grid upgrade costs while reducing the time needed for additional generation and power to come online. The proposed rule advances President Trump's agenda to ensure all Americans and domestic industries have access to affordable, reliable, and secure electricity. Secretary Wright also directed the FERC to initiate rulemaking with a proposed rule to remove unnecessary burdens for preliminary hydroelectric power permits. His proposed rules clarify that third parties do not have veto rights over the issuance of preliminary hydroelectric power permits. And so this is the actual letter that was written by the Secretary of Energy. And it says, to usher in a new era of American prosperity, we must ensure all Americans and domestic industries have access to affordable, reliable, and secure electricity. To do this, large loads, including AI data centers, served by public utilities, must be connected to the transmission system in a timely, orderly, and non-discriminatory manner. This is an urgent issue that requires prompt attention. He says Congress authorized the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, jurisdiction over the transmission of electric energy in interstate commerce and the sale of electricity at wholesale in interstate commerce. Historically, the Commission has not exerted jurisdiction over load interconnections. He said, it's my view that the interconnection of large loads directly to the interstate transmission system to access transmission system and the electricity transmitted over it falls squarely within the Commission's jurisdiction. Asserting the Commission's jurisdiction is in the public interest. This administration is committed to revitalizing domestic manufacturing and driving American AI innovation, both of which will require unprecedented and extraordinary quantities of electricity and substantial investment in the nation's interstate transmission system. He said we must do so efficiently, fairly, and expeditiously. Thus, pursuant to his authority under the Section 403 of Department of Energy Organization Act, he attached the Commission's considerations, advance notice of proposed rulemaking. He said, my proposal today sets forth a series of principles that are intended to ensure efficient, timely, and non-discriminatory load interconnections. It's my hope that you and the Commission's dedicated staff will build upon these principles and work expeditiously to initiate a rulemaking proceeding and ultimately issue the final rule. And so Kama Sutra continues, saying this is particularly intriguing for Scrubgrass, one of Bitfarms' facilities, and its 1 gigawatt capacity potential, which would make it a unicorn in the PJM and Eastern Seaboard if that were to happen to the site, right? No other AI company has, even in the pipeline, 1 gigawatt of potential capacity, especially if this can be achieved by the end of the year 2027. The Scrubgrass site currently only has a 115 kilovolt line coming into the site, which would make it impossible to get 1 gigawatt without any transmission line upgrades to the site or increased on-site generation. However, the site is located less than 2 kilometers to the nearest 345 kilovolt lines and the Handsome Lake Power Station. This is how it would work using a, quote, tap line from the Bitfarms Scrubgrass site to the 345 kilovolt lines. According to Grok, Grok said yes, it is possible to connect the site to the nearby 345 kilovolt transmission line to achieve up to 1 gigawatt of capacity, assuming the specific 345 line has sufficient available capacity and the Bitfarms site electrical infrastructure can be upgraded accordingly. This would involve tapping into the 345 kilovolt line with a short interconnection or the tap line, and building supporting facilities as distances under 2 kilometers make this technically and economically feasible. Let him cook. They're talking about the CEO of Bitfarms. So this user on X continues saying Ben, the CEO of Bitfarms, had stated that there are many parts to getting this done for Scrubgrass facility and nothing is guaranteed at this point. However, the Department of Energy's new FERC directive in the PJM, things are the opposite of breaking bad for Walter Gagnon, also known as Ben. They are in fact breaking great for him and Bitfarms. And he posted this from Matt Siegel, who is the head of digital asset research over at Van Eck. He said the Department of Energy's new FERC directive could be a game changer for large loads in the PJM and Mid-Atlantic region, ground zero for U.S. electricity bottleneck. Promises of expedited grid hookups for large load flexible operations like data centers and Bitcoin miners. This could tip the scales in lawsuits against FERC and potential to shave 1 to 2 years off typical timelines, which are currently 3 to 5 years for full interconnection. And again, this just kind of shows that the energy is what is needed. And, we've heard drill, baby, drill. We've heard, people are seeing very high energy costs around the country. Some are blaming the data centers for that. Maybe that is part of it, but the solution to the high demand for electricity is to increase the supply of electricity. And so what they're doing here, it seems, is expanding the capabilities for all of this electricity expansion and accelerating it, right? Giving the approvals that are needed to get that supply up. The same people who will complain that their energy prices are higher are the same ones saying, well, we shouldn't approve it because it's not good for the environment, or whatever the situation is. And it's like, well, they're trying to fix the supply-demand imbalance. But to fix the supply-demand imbalance, you need more supply because the demand is the same and ever increasing because of AI and other technologies that use up electricity. Like when you plug a Tesla in, where do you think it's getting energy from? It's getting energy from the grid. And so the more Teslas you have on the road, the more energy is being used. And just charging more isn't going to stop people from driving their Teslas or from utilizing AI or turning on their lights in their house, right? You need a baseline. And if the baseline is ever increasing, you need the supply to ever increase as well. Otherwise, you're going to have a supply-demand imbalance. That's why prices go higher. So to fix that, you need more energy. And to get more energy, you need to stop the bottlenecks, stop the regulatory hurdles, make it easier, give approvals, let them raise money. And that's what it seems like they're doing. But again, this all takes time. And so even if they get the approvals, then they still have to build out the facilities, get the equipment, and get all of that going, which could take, months to years. And this is where companies that are prepared for this and have this already in their plans for expansion, getting the approvals and the money, which Bitfarms has, $1 billion in cash, when I'm recording this video at least, they're able to execute as long as they get approved. And we heard from Ben, the CEO, that they are first in line in many areas of the country to get approvals for some of these facilities and the energy expansion, but they just need the approvals. And it seems like with the Secretary of Energy pushing this through, that this is going to be very, very bullish for these companies. So bullish that we're now seeing a Chicago partner investment group is buying at the end of October 191,000 shares of Bitfarms. And this is not the only large investment group that we're seeing. We'll get to that in a second. But Chicago Partner Investment Group acquired a new position in Bitfarms. According to the company in the most recent disclosure with the SEC, the fund acquired 191,000 shares valued at about $161,000. And by now, it's probably worth a lot more than that. I also have seen this, that Jane Street has purchased into these Bitcoin mining companies that have pivoted to AI. Filings show that they've purchased about 5.4% of the Bitfarms company, and they also invested 5% in Cipher Mining and 5% in Hut 8. And so it seems like these institutional investment firms are also seeing the potential in these companies like Bitfarms that have the energy, that have what the AI companies need, which is the energy, the data centers, and the fiber optic connectivity. All of these things to create the data centers that power the artificial intelligence software that people are using and continues to expand. And so this brings us to, what is Bitfarms doing? Well, like I said, they have $1 billion in cash. They just raised an upsized $350 million from the Macquarie debt facility, and they also have money from other things. They're doing stock buybacks. And again, Riot Platforms, which tried to take over the company back in 2024, has been divesting at losses in Bitfarms in the middle of the year, which is when we saw this double bottom that occurred here. Now, listen, I don't know how high this price is going to go. I do think that right now we're at the $4 to $6 range when I'm recording this video, which is right around the $3 billion market cap perspective. As I've explained many times on these videos, that I believe that at a very least, Bitfarms should be, just like many of the other Bitcoin mining companies that pivoted to AI, that they should be at least in the double-digit billions of dollars in valuation, which brings it to at least $10 billion, which is about 3x from where we are today, which is about $12 to $15. Now, that's just $10 billion valuation. To get to a $20 billion valuation, that would bring $12 to $15 to about $30 price. And while it may seem kind of very far out from where we're at today, once these things start moving, and once Wall Street starts to realize, which they're starting to, I mean, we have the head of digital asset research at Van Eck talking about Bitfarms and talking about the potential of what they're doing. This is very different than what the other Bitcoin mining companies are doing and where their facilities are and their access to the energy and access to the grid. And we've seen this over and over. The Pennsylvania region is very interesting for this whole data center and energy capacity, right? And so this is potentially very, very bullish for the Bitfarms stock. How high we're going to go, I don't know. I mean, we've already gone pretty parabolic from about 68 cents to basically almost 10x that at $6.60 from the bottom to the top. That was a 10x. But we still see some of these other Bitcoin mining and AI pivot companies in the $15 to $20 billion range already, like Iris Energy. And I think there's one other that is in the above $15 billion range when I'm recording this video. And so the fact that Bitfarms is not there and Bitfarms has a different business model than Iris Energy, which is owning all the GPUs, they're not really just focusing on the energy specific. I don't know. I think that Bitfarms has the potential to run up to $20 billion, which would put us in the $30 range for the stock price. You know, it doesn't appear that there's going to be much dilution from the company. If in fact, they're going to be doing the opposite of dilution by buying back shares. This is all very bullish. Now, over what time horizon and timeline we're going to see this occurring, I don't know. This could be in the next 3 months. This could be in the next 6 months. It could be in the next 3 years. It really depends on kind of how everything plays out and how they're able to execute the expansion and how much money they are able to get. I think the more money that is raised, the more purchases of the stock that we're seeing from Wall Street investors will really be the indicator. You know, I'm not counter a potential black swan event in the macroeconomic markets that could potentially pull Bitfarms back down substantially along with the rest of the market. But I do think that generally speaking, because crypto is potentially rotating into a bear market and maybe even other sectors of the economy, we keep hearing AI bubble, AI bubble, AI bubble. Yeah, AI may be in a bubble. I mean, they do literally have blank checks, but I don't necessarily think that's going to affect the infrastructure. When we hear of AI bubble, we think of, well, at least I do, NVIDIA. NVIDIA is a $4.5 trillion market cap company. I definitely think that that's way, way, way overvalued, right? Especially the fact that NVIDIA is no longer in China. They went from 95% market share in China to 0 because of the trade war with the United States. And that, I think, is going to significantly impact that, that stock. But AI is not going anywhere, and the expansion of AI is not going anywhere, and the need for energy and the infrastructure for the AI is clearly not going to go anywhere. And so while AI may be in a bubble, the infrastructure plays, I still think, are going to be net benefactors of the next 1 to 2 years in the markets. Now, I could be wrong on this, but I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments of this video. While you're down there, make sure you guys are subscribed. Give the video a free thumbs up. And make sure you check out our other videos on the channel. I'll see you on the next video. As always, invest responsibly and crypto on.